I'd been awake. I'd been awake for 72 hours straight. Coffee had replaced blood in my veins. My laptop fan sounded like it was about to ascend to heaven before I did. "This is it," I whispered to the blinking cursor. "Final chapter, then sleep, then food, then maybe an actual life." My desk was chaos, crumpled notes, cold noodles, and sticky notes that said things like, "Make Daniel suffer more and Rosaline needs redemption." Maybe. I was Evelyn Hart, best-selling author of The Flames of Eden, a college romance with way too much drama and way too little sleep behind it. And I was about to finish its sequel, The Fall of Rosaline Addams. Rosaline, my misunderstood Villaness. Lily Stone, her overly loyal best friend with the moral compass of a golden retriever. Daniel Roberts, the charming golden boy childhood friend who was supposed to fall for the heroine, Emma Stone, Lily's older sister. It was the perfect tragic setup. Rosaline was destined to lose, to be hated, to become the villain in someone else's happy ending, and I was about to kill her off. But as I typed the words, Rosaline looked up at Daniel one last time. My screen flickered. The letters smeared. The cursor froze. Then the world tilted sharp, dizzying wrong. My coffee mug slipped from my hand. And the last thing I remember before everything went black was the faint smell of ink. When I woke up, I was staring at a very fancy chandelier. My first thought, okay, either I'm dead or my landlord finally fixed the ceiling. Then I sat up and screamed, because I wasn't in my apartment. I was in a giant pink bedroom that looked like a Pinterest board for rich people. There was a vanity, lace curtains, and a mirror big enough to reflect my bad decisions in 4K, and in that mirror wasn't me. It was her, Rosaline Addams, perfect black curls, sharp yellow eyes, designer nightgown. And a face that screamed, "I can and will ruin your life, but politely." Oh my God. I pressed a hand to my face. I'm in my own novel. "Rosie," a voice chirped from the doorway. Lily Stone, the sunshine to Rosaline's thundercloud, bounced in, holding 2 coffee cups and a bag of muffins. She looked exactly as I'd written her, freckled, bright-eyed, the kind of girl who could trip on flat ground and still make it cute. Her smile could probably cure mild depression. "Good morning, sleepyhead. You're gonna be late for class." I blinked at her. "You brought me coffee." "Well, duh. You pulled an all-nighter writing your essay for Mr. Crawford's class again, didn't you? I swear, Rosie, if you keep this up, your brain's gonna short-circuit." "Too late, Lily." She handed me the cup, chatting about classes and professors, completely unaware that her soul had just met its creator. As I got ready, or tried to figure out which brush did what in Rosaline's overly luxurious vanity, my brain scrambled through everything I remembered about this story. Rosaline Addams was the villainess because of one thing: envy. She loved Daniel Roberts, her childhood best friend, but he was supposed to fall for Emma Stone, Lily's older sister. Emma was everything Rosaline wasn't: gentle, graceful, perfect in that unthreatening, tragic heroine way. Rosaline's jealousy would spiral until she ruined Emma's reputation, destroyed her own life, and drove Daniel away. That was the plot. That was what I'd written. But now I was her. And I hadn't done any of that yet. I looked at my reflection again, same face, new soul. "Okay," I whispered. "New plan, no villainy, no heartbreak, no dying dramatically in chapter 23. Lily peeked in. "You talking to yourself again?" "Manifesting," I said quickly. "Character development." Campus life at the fictional Graybridge University was exactly as I imagined it: leafy courtyards, coffee carts that overcharged, and way too many people who looked like they had trust funds. And there, standing under the old oak tree, was Daniel Roberts. Of course, he looked like a Pinterest board come to life. Tall, easy smile, that I was born to be a male lead aura. He was laughing with Emma, who stood beside him like a pastel-colored cloud of perfection. My stomach twisted, not with jealousy this time, but sheer awkwardness. Because the last time I wrote this scene, Rosaline interrupted their conversation and started a rumor that Emma was dadding the professor. Yeah, not doing that again. I turned to Lily, Let's not go that way. Lily blinked. But that's Daniel, your favorite person. Exactly, I said. Which is why I need at least 10 minutes of emotional buffering before I can form sentences near him. But fate didn't give me that luxury. Rosie. His voice, deep calm, way too familiar, froze me in place. I turned. Daniel was smiling, that same easy grin I'd written 100 times before. Hey, he said. Didn't expect to see you this early. You usually skip morning classes. Lily snorted. She's turning over a new leaf. He chuckled. Guess miracles happen. I stared at him for a second too long. Because, wow. Characters should not be allowed to look this good up close. Yeah, I blurted, trying to act normal. New leaf. Who needs sleep when you can be overachieving? He raised a brow. You feeling okay? No, I'm a dead author possessing your fictional best friend. Peachy, I said instead. Totally normal, love being alive. He gave me a funny look, but smiled anyway. And that smile. That was the problem. Because everyone, but him, knew Rosaline Addams was in love with Daniel Roberts. That night, I sat by Rosaline's ridiculously large window, staring at the city lights and my new reality. Somewhere out there, my story was still unfolding. Emma would still fall for Daniel. Lily would still defend me. And I, or rather, Rosaline, was still fated to be the villain. But not this time. Not if I could rewrite it from the inside. Okay, Evelyn, I whispered to the stars. You made this mess, time to fix it. I grabbed a notebook from Rosaline's desk and scribbled in big letters. Project Redemption Arc 1, do not ruin Emma's life. 2, do not start drama. 3, do not fall for Daniel. 4, do not die. Easy, right? I woke up to the sound of my alarm blaring Taylor Swift's I Knew You Were Trouble, which felt like the universe mocking me personally. Lily peeked in from the doorway, holding a hairbrush like a microphone. You awake, superstar. Barely, I mumbled, face half buried in a pillow. You have Professor Crawford's class in 20 minutes. Right, the same professor that Emma Stone, the actual heroine of this world, tutored for. In my original script, this was the scene where Rosaline started a rumor that Emma was sleeping with him. Yeah, we're not doing that again. We're doing therapy and moral choices this time. Lily, remind me, I said as I dragged myself to the mirror. Why are we known as villains again? She tilted her head, toothbrush in mouth. Because we're the only ones brave enough to wear designer heels to philosophy class. Right, I said dryly, because that's definitely the reason. By the time we reached campus, everyone was already buzzing about the upcoming literature gala, a fancy event where students submitted short stories and the winner got published in the university journal. I, Evelyn Hart, former professional author, current body-snatching disaster, should have been thrilled. Except, this was the plot point that officially destroyed Rosaline. In the original story, Emma submitted a heartfelt essay about love and forgiveness. Rosaline, jealous and desperate for Daniel's attention, sabotaged her entry by swapping the files. When Emma's name got dragged through the mud, Daniel turned on Rosaline. Cue, tears, heartbreak, and death by karma. So yeah, we're deleting that storyline faster than my tax emails. Daniel found me after class, holding 2 coffees. One for you, he said, since you looked like you were about to bite Crawford's head off earlier. I blinked at the cup. Thanks, how much do I owe you? He frowned. Rosie, it's coffee, you've known me since we were 6. You don't owe me anything. Right. Except the small matter of writing his doomed romance arc. Thanks, I said, sipping awkwardly. And sorry if I was weird yesterday. You, weird, he grinned. That's like saying the sky's occasionally blue. I choked on my drink. Wow, comedy minor. Psychology, he said, shrugging, which I'll be using to analyze why you avoid eye contact every time I talk to Emma. I don't, I paused, realizing that in Rosaline's memories I absolutely did. Fine, I used to, but I'm working on not being a raging soap opera anymore. He blinked. I have no idea what that means, but good for you. Later at lunch, Emma herself showed up, all soft smiles and gentle energy, like she walked straight out of an emotional Pinterest quote. "Hi, Rosaline," she said politely. And okay, I get it now. She was likable. Not in a fake, forced way. She just had this calm kindness that made you want to apologize for existing too loudly. "Hey, Emma," I said carefully. "Nice top." Lily almost choked on her sandwich. Emma looked pleasantly surprised. "Thank you. It's from the new collection at Wait. Are you being nice to me?" I shrugged. I'm trying a new personality. Less evil, more morally stable. Emma blinked. "That's good." "Right, growth." Lily grinned, whispering, "Rosie too. Less villainy, more vibes." That night, I sat in Rosaline's dorm, scribbling in my Project Redemption arc notebook. 1. Didn't start a rumor. 2. Complimented Emma. 3. Didn't commit social homicide. 4. Survived a Daniel interaction without melting. Progress. I was mid-proud when my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Daniel, hey, you free? Need opinion on my story draft." Me, sure. "Daniel, it's about dreams that feel real." Me, sounds deep. "Daniel, kinda weird though. There's this girl in it. I keep dreaming about her face, but I don't think she exists." Me, maybe it's just your brain mixing memories. "Daniel, yeah, except she feels real, like I knew her before." My heart dropped. Because I had written that line. It was one of the first hints I planted, that Daniel's soul had seen Evelyn, me, before. He was remembering me. I froze, staring at the screen. In my world, I'd written him to feel haunted by someone who didn't belong, a girl from another life. And now, he was texting me about her. "Daniel, you there?" Me, yeah, just thinking. "Daniel, about what?" Me, nothing. Just, maybe your dream girl's closer than you think. When I closed my laptop that night, I stared at my reflection again. Rosaline Addams, Villaness turned accidental protagonist, and Daniel Roberts, the man I was supposed to break. I was rewriting his story, but the question was, could I rewrite mine too? The next morning started with disaster, which, in my defense, wasn't my fault. Okay, maybe partially my fault. Lily had convinced me to volunteer for the literature gala prep. "It'll help your reputation," she'd said. She failed to mention helping meant being stuck in the same room as Daniel and Emma for 6 hours. If awkward silence were an Olympic sport, I'd take gold. "Rosie, can you hand me the glue gun?" Emma asked sweetly. "Sure, just careful, it's hot." Lily whispered, "You just gave her a safety warning. Who even are you?" "Someone evolving," I hissed. Daniel glanced up. "You two always talk like you're plotting a coup." "We are," Lily said cheerfully. "A coup against poor communication." Around midday, Emma left for supplies, leaving us 3. "So," Lily started, "Rosie tells me you've been dreaming about mysterious girls again." I spat my coffee. "Lily." "What? It's cute. Like Twilight but with better dialogue." Daniel gave me a look. "You told her about that." "Not in detail," I said. He leaned back. "Yeah, it's weird though. Sometimes I walk past places and feel this pull, like I'm supposed to remember someone who isn't here anymore." I laughed too quickly. "Haha, sounds like a vitamin deficiency." Lily side-eyed me. "Right, because vitamin D causes emotional déjà vu." I glared. "Shut up before I unfriend you in this universe." Later that week, Daniel asked for help with his short story. We met in the library, quiet and dim. He read aloud softly. "In my dreams, she stands under streetlights, smiling like she knows the ending before I do." I froze. I wrote that line. He looked up. "What do you think?" "It's beautiful," I said. "You're acting strange lately." "I'm always strange." "Stranger," he smiled. "You feel different, softer." "Wow, thanks, I think." "It's not bad, it's just you've changed." Maybe people change when someone gives them the chance. He met my eyes. Then I'm glad I did. And that right there, that was not in the script. Of course, peace never lasts. 2 days later, I overheard Emma and her friends whispering. Do you think Rosaline's pretending? Emma sighed. She's not the same, it's confusing. I wanted to scream, I'm literally the author. But instead, I walked away because Rosaline wouldn't. That night, Lily was sprawled on my bed. Operation Redemption isn't going well, I muttered. She said. You're not being called Campus Medusa anymore. Progress. Small win. She glanced at me. You like Daniel again. I froze. What? No, I'm just fond. Rosie. Fine, maybe a little, but that's illegal. He's my own creation. Lily grinned. So technically, you manifested your dream man. That's girl boss behavior. The next day, fate decided to humiliate me. Professor Crawford announced, we'll be pairing up for the gala readings. Roberts and Addams, you're together. The room buzzed. Emma looked down. Daniel smiled faintly. Guess it's fate, Rosie. Yeah, I muttered. Fate got a weird sense of humor. We practiced after hours in the empty auditorium. His story was about memory. Mine about rewriting destiny. Halfway through, the lights flickered. He laughed. Spooky timing. Then softly, you know what's weird? Sometimes when you talk, I swear I've heard your voice before, not here, somewhere else. My heart stuttered. Maybe in a dream. He nodded. Yeah, maybe. Would you want to remember it if you could? Only if you're in it. My brain short-circuited. Somewhere my editor was yelling, this was not in the outline. That night I couldn't sleep. Every word replayed in my mind like a song I couldn't turn off. The story was changing. Lily was happier. Emma was softer. And Daniel was remembering things he was never supposed to. Maybe that's what happens when you rewrite a story, the characters start rewriting you. I didn't know if I was fixing my mistakes or falling deeper into them. But one thing was certain. For the first time, Rosaline Addams wasn't the Villaness. She was the girl who might just change the ending. Rosie. I looked up. Daniel Roberts stood by my desk, sunlight cutting across his hair like the universe was flexing on me. You spaced out again, he said, half smiling. What's going on in that head of yours? Mostly you, I didn't say. Just thinking about plots, I said instead. Plots, he frowned, like stories. Sure. He leaned against the desk. You never used to like stories. Maybe I learned to. He gave me a curious look, that quiet, analyzing one that made you feel like he was trying to solve a puzzle only he could see. Then Lily plopped into the seat beside me, her energy practically glittering. Stop flirting in public, she groaned. Some of us have lunch to digest. Daniel flushed. I wasn't. You were, I cut in, grinning. She's right. He chuckled under his breath. Same old Rosie. Except I wasn't the same. I wasn't even Rosie. That evening, campus buzzed with preparations for the spring festival, the same event that, in my original draft, would trigger my downfall. In that version, Rosaline humiliated Emma Stone in front of everyone and earned her villainous crown. Not happening, not on my rewrite. I was folding banners when Daniel appeared again, hands in his pockets. You're actually helping this year, he said. Didn't think festivals were your thing. They were. Maybe I needed new material. He raised an eyebrow. You talk like a writer. My heart skipped. Maybe I am one. He studied me a moment longer. You know, it's weird. Sometimes you say things that sound familiar. Familiar how? Like déjà vu. He smiled faintly. I dream about this place sometimes, the fountain, the lights. You're there too, but it feels older, like we've done this before. I forced a laugh. Maybe you're psychic. Maybe. Then softer. You look different in the dream, though. Same eyes, different everything else. I froze. He was describing me. My real-world self, the overworked author who died at her desk. Later that night, I sat with Lily under the fairy lights. She tossed popcorn at my face. You and Daniel are flirting again. We're talking. Flirting, she corrected. with bonus yearning. I rolled my eyes. He's remembering things he shouldn't. I just need to keep him grounded. She snorted. You mean keep yourself from combusting? You look at him like he's a limited edition book you lost in a fire. I laughed despite myself. You're too observant. Perks of being the comic relief, she said, winking. 2 days later, Daniel found me in the library, slumped over an open notebook. You okay? He asked, voice low. Fine, just overthinking. He hesitated, then sat beside me. You ever get the feeling you're not where you're supposed to be? I met his gaze, all the time. He smiled sadly. Yeah, me too. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, like the story itself was holding its breath. He reached out, fingers brushing mine. Whatever happens at the festival, he said, I've got your back, Rosie, always. And in that second, I realized the danger wasn't the script. It was that he was falling for me, the wrong version of me, and I was letting him. By the time the spring festival arrived, the entire campus looked like someone had set Pinterest on fire, in a good way. Fairy lights tangled in tree branches, the air smelled of sugar and fried things, and everyone was in a mood to pretend their deadlines didn't exist. And then there was me, Rosaline Addams, supposed Villaness of this story, holding a box of cupcakes and trying very hard not to cause the scene that would cement my literary doom. Careful, Lily warned, balancing her lemonade. You drop those and the universe might smite you for pastry crimes. I've faced death, Lily, I muttered, shifting the box. Cupcakes can't scare me. Uh-huh, she said. Tell that to Daniel when you yeet frosting onto his shirt. I turned. Speak of the heartbreak hazard, Daniel was laughing with Emma Stone near the fountain. Emma, the novel's golden girl, looked like she'd walked straight out of a shampoo commercial. In my original draft, this was the scene. Rosaline snaps, accuses Emma of stealing Daniel, and dumps punch all over her gown. The entire school sides with Emma, and the villainous crown gets nailed firmly to Rosaline's head. Not this time, not my rewrite. Go on, Lily nudged me. Talk to him. Maybe make it awkward. Awkward's cute. Awkward's tragic, I said, but she was already shoving me forward. Daniel noticed before I could bolt. Rosie, he smiled, and the sound of my name on his lips short-circuited half my brain cells. You made it. Of course, I gestured at the cupcakes like a peace offering. Bribery in edible form. He laughed. Dangerous, you know I can't say no to sugar. Emma smiled politely. I didn't know you two were close. Childhood friends, Daniel said easily. We used to be inseparable. Used to be, I echoed, trying not to sound wistful. Emma's smile faltered just slightly. That's sweet. The moment hung awkwardly between us. Then someone called her name, and she excused herself, her perfume trailing like a promise of perfection. Daniel turned back to me. You okay? Fine, just remembering how badly I wrote this scene the first time. He blinked. What? Nothing, I said quickly. We wandered past booths and lanterns. Somewhere, Lily was likely plotting chaos. Daniel stopped near the stage, where couples danced under soft golden lights. Deja vu again, I asked when he stared too long. He nodded slowly. It's weird. I keep dreaming of this place. Only you're wearing something else, white dress, wind in your hair, you're laughing. I swallowed. Maybe you've seen too many rom-coms. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was peeling through layers no one else could see. Rosie, he said quietly, do you ever feel like you're in the wrong life? I froze. He wasn't supposed to ask that yet. Why? I asked carefully. Because when I look at you, I remember things I shouldn't. Things that don't make sense. A desk, papers, you crying over a story, and then nothing. My heart slammed against my ribs. He was remembering me, my old self. I forced a laugh, the kind that cracked slightly. Sounds like your brain, trying to write its own drama. Maybe. He smiled faintly. But if it is, I think you're the main character. Later that night, the music shifted to something slower. Lily somehow managed to trip an entire light chord and yet still shout, Go dance, you repression gremlins, before disappearing into the crowd. Daniel offered his hand. Come on. I don't dance. He grinned. Then we'll both look stupid together. So I let him pull me in. Warm hand, soft lights, my heart writing poetry without permission. Halfway through the song, he leaned closer, voice low. You said something earlier about writing scenes wrong. Did I? He nodded. You sound like someone who's trying to change a story that's already been written. I looked up at him, and if I was, then I'd help you rewrite it. Something inside me twisted and melted at once. I hadn't written this line. He had. And maybe that's what made it real. When the lights dimmed and fireworks bloomed above, I realized I'd changed more than just a scene. Emma wasn't the only heroine anymore. Lily wasn't comic relief. Daniel wasn't a static love interest. They were all alive, beyond the script, and me. Maybe I was, too. The fireworks had barely faded when the first crack appeared. Not in the sky in the story. At first, it was subtle. A side character who wasn't supposed to exist, a literature professor named Dr. Wynne, showed up in class and began lecturing about the dangers of rewriting fate. I remember freezing mid-note, the pen slipping from my fingers. Because I never wrote him. And yet there he was. After class, Lily looped her arm through mine. You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe I have, I said faintly. Let me guess, Daniel smiled at you again. Ha. She grinned. It's not my fault your face goes full Windows error screen every time he looks at you. I tried to smile, but something about that lecture still hummed in my skull. Maybe this world knew I was rewriting it. Later, I found Daniel on the library terrace, his usual hiding place. He sat under the glow of a desk lamp, scribbling furiously in his notebook. What are you writing? I asked. He looked up startled, then gave a crooked smile. Dreams. Still having them. Yeah, and they're getting weirder. Last night you were at a desk crying over pages of, he hesitated, over pages of me. My breath caught. What did I say? He frowned, flipping through the notebook. It's not fair. He deserves a happy ending. I nearly laughed and sobbed at once. That's beautifully tragic. Yeah, he said softly, but it felt real, like it actually happened. We fell quiet. The night wind tugged at my hair. Somewhere the campus clock struck 9. He turned the page again, showing me a sketch, my face, ink lines delicate and sure. You keep showing up, he said, even when I try to forget. That's one of my worst habits, I murmured. He studied me for a long moment, then said, You ever feel like we're part of a story? I froze. What makes you say that? Because everything feels too arranged, like someone planned every mistake we make. The irony nearly made me choke. Someone did, I thought, me. But I smiled instead. Then maybe it's time to start improvising. He grinned. You sound like you've done that before. Once or twice. That night I couldn't sleep. My laptop, now a relic of my real world, sat on the desk, its screen dark. I kept expecting it to flicker to life. When I closed my eyes, the code of this world shimmered in my mind like sentences written in invisible ink. Every time I changed something, a line of dialogue, a fate it pulsed, as if resisting me. And now, I felt it pulsing harder. The next day I saw it. The fountain in the quad, where Emma was supposed to confess to Daniel, had cracked, the water flowing backward for a moment before correcting itself. The story was breaking. Rosie, Lily's voice snapped me out of it. She jogged over, waving her phone. The student paper posted something about you. My stomach dropped. The headline, Campus Heiress accused of rigging the festival votes. That's impossible, I whispered. I didn't. Lily frowned. Someone's trying to paint you as the villain again. The universe was trying to reset. I turned sharply. Where, Daniel? Library. Why? Because I think the story's fighting back. He was there when I found him, packing near the window. Before I could speak, he said, I know it wasn't you. Relief flooded me. How? Because I remember something, he said. A scene, someone writing me defending you. You said the world wouldn't forgive a villain, Heart, no matter how it changed. I swallowed hard. That sounds poetic. It sounds familiar. He stepped closer, eyes dark with something like realization. Rosie, tell me the truth. Who are you? My lips parted, but no sound came. Behind him, the world seemed to flicker, the air thickening like static. I started. The sky glitched, just for a second. The lamps outside blinked out, and every phone on campus buzzed with a single line of text. The rewrite cannot continue. Lily found us moments later, her expression pale. Guys, the literature professor, Dr. Wynne. He just vanished mid-lecture. Daniel grabbed my hand instinctively. Rosie, what's happening? I met his gaze, heart hammering. The story, I whispered. It's remembering how it's supposed to end. I could hear it before I saw it, the sound of a world unraveling. It wasn't thunder or an explosion. It was glitching, like 1,000 TV screens dying at once, the static swallowing reality in jagged bursts of sound. The courtyard trembled under my feet. The air was wrong, fractured, buzzing like heat over metal. And right there, in the middle of it all, Daniel was staring at me. Rosie, he whispered, his voice raw, I remember. The world bent around his words. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it, that the collapsing sky had finally snapped what was left of my sanity. But then he took a step toward me, eyes wide with something I'd only ever written into him. Recognition. Grief. Love. I froze. You what? He laughed, almost breathless. I used to dream about you, not Rosaline Addams, not this. You were sitting at a desk, writing and crying. You said my name like it meant something. My heart stuttered. That desk, that night, that version of me, the one who wrote him into existence and never lived to finish the story. My voice shook. Daniel, the world is collapsing. We have to. No, he said, closing the distance between us. Not yet. I need to say this before everything goes. The ground split somewhere behind us. The fountain cracked, frozen mid-flow. The sky pixelated, squares of blue turning into void. Every character nearby froze mid-step, their outlines flickering, half code, half human. And yet, for one impossible heartbeat, it was only us. I was supposed to hate you, he said, voice trembling. In the story I do, you betray me, remember. But every time I saw you, every time you smiled, I felt something I wasn't supposed to, like I already loved you before the story began. My throat tightened. You weren't supposed to, I whispered. None of this was supposed to happen. He smiled, heartbreak and wonder twisted together. Maybe you shouldn't have written me so well. The glitch ripped through the air, slicing the sky into luminous shards. I could see behind it now, the grid lines, the scaffolding of the world I once coded with words, and it was breaking apart. I reached for him. Daniel, I can fix this. How? He laughed, the sound half despair, half disbelief. You don't even belong here, Rosie. You made this place. You made me. Tears blurred my vision. I know, but I never wanted you to suffer in it. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was seeing both versions of me at once. The writer who loved him, and the villainess doomed to lose him. The ground trembled violently. Columns shattered into glowing dust. Lily's voice screamed somewhere distant, Rosie, Daniel. Before she blinked out of existence, her pixels scattering like confetti. I could barely breathe. Everything I wrote, every emotion, every word was disintegrating around us. Rosie, Daniel said quietly, cupping my face as if touch could anchor us both. I think this is the end of your story. No, I whispered, clinging to him. Not if I rewrite it. He smiled faintly. You always said happy endings were overrated. I lied. He laughed through tears, that boyish, disarming sound that used to fill entire scenes. Of course you did. The world screamed. A fissure tore across the courtyard, light flooding upward like liquid sunrise. Time slowed. I saw everything, the roses wilting midair, the pages of reality curling into flame. Daniel leaned closer, his forehead against mine. "If there's another life," he whispered, "find me there too." My heart cracked. I always do. He kissed me, not like a fairy tale ending, but like a goodbye rewritten in defiance of fate. And then, just as his warmth flooded through me, he began to fade. "Daniel," I screamed, grabbing his arm, but my hand passed through light. "No, no, stay." He smiled one last time. "Write me again, Rosie." The glitch swallowed him whole. And then silence. I was alone in a collapsing dream, everything I ever built shattering like glass around me. My reflection flickered across every broken surface, fragments of the woman who'd played God and fallen in love with her creation. The world groaned, and I fell to my knees. "Not like this," I whispered. "Not this ending." The last of the courtyard disintegrated, light wrapping around me like a dying heartbeat. I reached upward, the motion instinctive, desperate, reaching for a hand that wasn't there anymore. And just as the final pixel of sky dissolved, a voice, faint and distant, echoed through the void. "Rosie, wake up." I gasped, eyes snapping open. The world was gone. But the voice was his. The voice dragged me from the dark. I blinked, choking on air, clutching at sheets that were too soft, too real. My lungs burned. My heart was still racing from a world that shouldn't exist anymore. Fluorescent light flickered above me. A steady beep, beep, beep echoed from the side. Hospital monitors. I stared around, disoriented, white walls, sterile air, the faint hum of machines. Not a palace, not a courtyard, not Greyhaven. The IV in my wrist stung when I moved. My hands looked thinner, paler. The world hadn't collapsed. I had just woken up. The door burst open, and a familiar voice shouted, "Evelyn." I froze. Lily. Except she wasn't wearing a gown or ribbons this time. Her hair was shorter, messy, dyed honey blonde. She wore an oversized hoodie with Stone Sisters printed across the chest. "Lily," my voice cracked. She rushed forward, hugging me so tightly I almost lost my breath. "Oh my God, you scared me half to death. You collapsed 3 days ago. The doctors said it was exhaustion again." Exhaustion. Overwork. 72 hours without sleep. It hit me like a freight train. Rosaline Addams, gone. Evelyn Hart, back. And Lily Stone, her best friend in both worlds. She pulled back, her face pale with worry. "You really have to stop doing this, Evie. No one writes novels worth dying over." A strangled laugh escaped me. "If only you knew." Then, before I could respond, another voice cut through the doorway, warm, calm, achingly familiar. "Is she awake?" The world tilted. He stepped inside, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a gray hoodie and carrying a takeout coffee. His hair was a bit tousled, and his eyes, those same eyes that once looked at me through fire and glitch and chaos. Daniel. Except now, he was Daniel Roberts, film student, Lily's mutual friend, the boy I'd supposedly met once or twice at her campus events. He smiled at me, polite and easy. "Hey, you had everyone worried." My lips parted. "Daniel." His brow furrowed slightly. Yeah, have we met before?" Lily rolled her eyes. "Evie, he visited twice while you were out cold. You probably don't remember." I tried to speak, but my voice trembled. "Right, of course." He stepped closer, setting the coffee on the table. "You were talking in your sleep, you know." Sounded like you were begging someone not to disappear. My breath caught. He chuckled softly. "Guess even authors dream dramatically." If only he knew how real it had been. Lily nudged him. "Come on, don't freak her out with your film theories. Let her rest." "Yeah," he said, turning to leave but paused. His gaze lingered on me, thoughtful, almost searching. "I've been having this weird déjà vu since I got here," he admitted quietly. "Like I've seen you before, somewhere." My heart stopped. When he left, the room fell silent except for the steady hum of machines. I stared at the faint reflection in the window, my own eyes, rimmed red, yet shining with something dangerous. Hope. The world had rewritten itself. Rosaline Addams was gone. But Evelyn Hart was still here, and so were they. And maybe, just maybe this time, I'd write us a new story. It started small, a flicker of memory here, a strange sense of familiarity there. 3 weeks after the hospital, I'd convinced myself it was all a dream. The world was normal again, boringly, beautifully normal. I worked from home, re-outlining my unfinished novel, trying not to flinch every time I typed Rosaline or Daniel. Lily visited often, always armed with snacks and sarcasm. And Emma, the real Emma, her older sister, joined sometimes, teasing us about my tragic romantic tendencies. But sometimes, when Lily laughed, I heard the novel Lily's voice. And when Emma crossed her arms and smirked, for a split second I saw the heroine once written, full of fire and grace. The strangest part, though, was Daniel. He started showing up more, sometimes with Lily, sometimes alone, claiming he just happened to be nearby. He'd sit on my balcony, helping me brainstorm my new draft. He never said much about the déjà vu, but I caught him watching me sometimes, the way Rosaline used to watch Daniel, afraid to hope. Once, while he was flipping through my old notes, he frowned. "Why does this sound so familiar?" he asked. "Like I've read it before." I froze. "Because you probably have. Maybe I told you parts before." He shook his head. "No, it's more like I lived it." Our eyes met, and for a heartbeat I saw it. The flicker. The flash of fire, of collapsing code, of him reaching for me across a dying world. I smiled faintly. "Maybe you did." He stared at me for a long time, then leaned back and laughed softly. "You and your stories, Evelyn." But that night when I walked him to the door, he hesitated. "That name," he said suddenly. "Rosaline Addams, it won't leave my head. Who was she?" My throat tightened. Someone I once loved enough to write a whole world for. He nodded slowly, something wistful crossing his face. "Then she must have been unforgettable." I wanted to say, "You were the one who remembered her first." But I didn't. A month later, Lily dragged us all to the spring fair. The air was full of music, lights, cotton candy, and laughter. It should have felt ordinary. It didn't. Daniel won a small rose-shaped pendant at one of the stalls, and without thinking, handed it to me. "I don't know why," he said quietly, "but it feels like yours." I took it with trembling fingers. "It was," I whispered. He blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I smiled. "Just déjà vu." Later that evening, as the sky blushed pink and gold, Lily and Emma raced ahead toward the Ferris wheel. Daniel and I lingered behind. He glanced at me, hands in his pockets, expression uncertain. "Do you ever feel like," he trailed off, "like we've done all this before?" I looked at him, really looked, at the same blue eyes that had once seen me as a villain, then as a friend, and finally as the woman he couldn't let go of. "Maybe," I said softly, "maybe we're just finding each other again." He smiled faintly. "Then I hope we never stop." And for the first time since waking up, I stopped fighting what I knew to be impossible, the idea that stories don't end when you close the book. They bleed. They echo. They find you again, in another world, another lifetime, another name. As the Ferris wheel turned above us, lights reflecting in his eyes, he reached for my hand. I let him. The universe had rewritten us once. But this time, we'd write our